Everyone's slipping and sliding today and ending up in all kinds of unexpected places. It happened on accident. How do you even do this? It happened on purpose. Colorado's suddenly good at a strange sport.
Oh, I love it. It's great. We're pretty excited.
They're less excited in the middle of Colorado, where they've seen 5 feet of snow since New Year's and are wondering if they have ever seen this snowy of a start to the season. Campaign season's off to an early start. The first well-known Democrat announces for governor, and we have some questions about his big, bold idea.
I didn't hear you say how we were going to pay for it.
Denver's oldest continually operating bar is losing its owner. Fear not, it's not going to be demolished to make room for more condos for bros. And next finds Russians meddling in our museum to influence the outcome for visitors. Welcome to our intelligence community of sorts. This is Next. Dinosaur Ridge in Jefferson County is a natural landmark that has helped teach generations of Coloradans about natural history. But Dinosaur Ridge really hasn't done its part into getting people into clean, no money down vehicles. And there are plans to change that by adding car dealerships to the area around the natural landmark. After a day-long hearing, we are awaiting a decision any moment now from Jeffco commissioners, who must decide whether to side with the neighbors who don't want the development in the area, where NIMBY now stands for not in Megalosaurus's backyard, or whether to give the go-ahead to those developers who are asking for zoning that would allow dealerships, stores, and warehouses. Lost in all this is what the dinosaurs would want, whether they would be honored to have their tracks overshadowed by dealerships selling machines that burn their fossilized remains to get us to the store and back, and also, if those dinosaurs were so concerned about preserving their footprints, why'd they walk so close to the suburbs? We'll keep track of the situation. We'll let you know if Jeffco commissioners decide before the end of Next. President Obama issued another 200-plus commutations and pardons today as he prepares to leave office. No Coloradans on that list. We read it top to bottom. But people who know Denver history might recognize the name Oscar Lopez Rivera. President Obama commuted Lopez Rivera's sentence for trying to overthrow the American government. Lopez Rivera is a Puerto Rican nationalist. He'd been labeled a terrorist by his critics, but Lopez Rivera has some prominent supporters on the American left who have always considered him a political prisoner. He has steadfastly denied being involved in the bombings by the FALN in the 1970s and 80s. So here's the Denver tie. Back at the time of the bombings, the feds were watching Lopez Rivera, along with Chicano rights leaders here in Denver, including well-known community activist Corky Gonzalez. Newspaper accounts of that time also say that the dynamite used in the famous bombings in New York and Chicago was taken from work sites in Colorado. Former State Senator Mike Johnson is running for governor, promising big, bold ideas. He is perhaps best known for the big, bold idea to raise taxes by $1 billion to fix Colorado's crumbling education system. Voters rejected that. Amendment 66, a 2-to-1 margin. After Johnson entered the Democratic primary this morning, I asked him what he learned from that bruising loss. Too big, too bold, or was it a bad idea?
I mean, so as a teacher and a principal in Colorado, I knew the consequences of having schools that were under-resourced and students that were fighting to get ahead without the supports they needed to do it. And so we knew we had a problem we had to solve, which is schools don't have the resources they need. We put together a plan to try to solve that problem, and we took it to the voters, and the voters said they didn't want it. So what we did was we heard that feedback and went back to work. The next legislative session, I passed almost $400 million investment by doing what voters asked, take the resources you can find from the revenue we have to do it. We tried to solve what was a big problem. The voters said that wasn't the right solution. So we listened to them and found some new solutions.
Johnson's the first major name to join what is expected to be a crowded race on both sides. In just a moment, we'll resume our conversation with Johnson's next big, bold idea, debt-free college for Coloradans. We'll talk about how he plans to pay for it. Colorado State University is facing a free speech lawsuit in federal court that alleges it made it difficult to bring a pro-life speaker to campus. These lawsuits are not uncommon, and this one, as they so often do, focuses on whether student activity fees, which bring speakers to campus, can exclude speakers with conservative viewpoints. Spoke today with Emily Faulkner, the student bringing the lawsuit.
Regardless if you agree with abortion or you disagree, this is a place where we can all come together and say we want to protect our First Amendment right, and especially on a public university where we should be applauded for expressing our views.
And I assume, lastly, just for the record, you have no issue with your student fees going to pay for a speaker in support of reproductive rights?
Right. I mean, if that's going to go, and I mean, if that's part of the freedom of speech, awesome. That's great. I think all ideas should be welcome on our campus. So.
Faulkner's represented by the Alliance Defending Freedom, the ADF. It's a conservative law organization that handles a lot of these cases. CSU told me it just learned the lawsuit today and typically does not comment on litigation. When we first saw the photo of this morning's crash posted on the Next Facebook page, we wondered two things. Is everyone okay? Yes. And how did that happen? So we headed to Louisiana and Dahlia in Denver to find out.
Well, this morning we opened up our blinds and surprised, there's a car hanging from the support wires of the power line. Literally, my wife and I both said at the same time, not again. Because literally every winter of this four-way stop, there's several accidents. I want to say over 20, and it's the people that are speeding, rushing to work or rushing home, not paying attention, hit some ice, and there you have it. This morning, this was the ultimate one. Hanging car off power line, so kind of interesting, yeah. Everyone's in a rush to get somewhere else, and they're so self-absorbed that they're not paying attention about the kindness of humanity. We just all need to take a deep breath, relax, and be kind when we drive, and be careful, and be aware. It's time to think about when we first started getting our driver's license. I think that's what we all need to do. Go back to that. Go back to the basics. Blinker, turn signals. Yeah, that's my story.
That's his story, and that was a wild picture. So most of us do not get to complain about the snow and ice. Come on, it's Colorado. Gunnison gets to complain about the snow and ice. The airport there estimates they've seen 55 to 60 inches of snow since January 3rd. If that estimation is correct, that would make it Gunnison's snowiest month on record. A professor at Western State thinks that this year now officially tops January 1957. That month, Gunnison got 50.2 inches of snow. The city's using its employees, plus CDOT, plus Gunnison County crews, plus 4 or 5 private companies to clear the snow. They've restricted parking and had to cancel recycling pickup for now. The city told us the Ace Hardware in Gunnison reports selling 1,100 shovels in the last 2 weeks. That's about 1 new shovel for every 1 in 10 people in the whole county. This next story is not about a police officer in trouble, lawman accused of breaking the law. No, this next story is about a public servant doing the right thing, like 99% of them do every day. They're the good ones. They're almost all good ones. Denver police say they cannot identify the officer in this video simply by looking at it, but it is clear that it is a DPD officer who comes along to help a man who's in a wheelchair trying to navigate a snow-covered street earlier this month at 13th and Cherokee. DPD posted the surveillance video on Facebook today. It is the kind of kindness that doesn't always make the news, but it should. These Coloradans have day jobs, and they have dreams.
The biggest goal, I think, for all of us would be to go to the Olympics in 2018.
Brothers Bar has been pouring booze for generations. Now it's time to hand over the bottles.
Getting old now, that's right.
The next era for that Denver landmark. And the Russians are coming to Colorado with a plan to leave something behind. My Brother's Bar is a staple in Denver. It's the oldest continually running bar in the city. It's near the REI, corner of 15th and Platt. It's had the same owners for 47 years, but there are new owners about to take over the bar. Danny Newman and his mom Paula bought it. They are not unfamiliar to the place. Paula Newman's worked there for more than 30 years. They appreciate its significance. They're not going to sell it to make room for more condos. But it is certainly a changing of the guard after decades.
Well, I'll miss it. Oh, I'll definitely miss it. Oh, yeah.
Making sure that we've got a place that every time they come and visit is exactly as they remember it, I think is going to be very positive. Being a bar and restaurant owner sounds is going to be fantastic. Can't wait.
The previous owners say there's a deal with the new owners. They'll be able to eat free for life.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Kathy Sabin. Yeah, we saw 5 inches of snow from our storm yesterday, but it could have been worse, so much worse. The crippling ice storm that hit the plains and the Midwest is now headed for the Northeast, and we're left with a nice warming trend around here. 46 today, mid-50s tomorrow and Thursday. But there's always another storm. This one coming on shore in the Pacific Northwest. A second storm bringing rain, not ice, to Dallas, Houston, but compromising travel tomorrow all the way up through the Memphis area. Look at California bracing for more heavy flooding rainfall. Oh, they're happy to see the moisture after the drought-ravaged state has been through so much in the last few years, but this is too much of a good thing. Speaking of a good thing, our forecast looks terrific. Other than some patchy fog on the far eastern plains, we have clear skies tonight and a sunny day tomorrow. Our low tonight at 23. Sun's up at just after 7 tomorrow. We'll double that number by lunchtime, mid-40s by noon, mid-50s in the afternoon, above average weather until I think we'll see the temperatures dip a bit on Friday with the weak front coming in, 20% chance of flurries on Friday night.
Kathy, thanks. Curling is not a staple of sportscasts in Denver yet. Maybe if the Broncos have another down year, Rod Mackey will start including highlights from the sport where people glide that stone down the ice and the other players sweep in front of it with brooms. Our Victoria Sanchez found one of the best curling teams in America right in our backyard.
What do you get when you put together a real estate agent?
Line's good. Right here, guys.
Civil engineer.
You got it, guys. Put it in the 4-foot.
Author and software designer?
Line's good. Come on, you got it. Get in here. Hurry hard. Hurry hard.
Just the 8th ranked curling team in the country.
There we go. Great sweeping.
It was a moment where you're sort of thinking, did this really happen?
It's got to curl a little bit.
Meet Team Sobering.
Yep, right to it.
That's Daryl Sobering from the Denver Curling Club. Don't feel bad if you've never heard of them.
It's really neat to start to make a name for ourselves in the club.
Yep.
This group of guys with very different backgrounds is heading to the USA Men's National Curling Championships. It's a first for Colorado in more than 2 decades.
There we go. Great sweeping.
You'd think with such a big accomplishment, they've been a team for years. But really, it's been less than 6 months.
I know, I love it. It's great. We're pretty excited. Right there.
At the ripe old age of 24, Aaron Johnston is the youngest on the team.
Yeah, and I started when I was in 5th grade.
He's a little baby.
So, yeah.
He's our wee one.
But all joking aside, his teammates are banking on his 15 years of experience to take it to the house. No, really, this bullseye-looking target is called the house.
Whoever's closest to the center of that bullseye at the end of all the rocks being thrown, that's the team that scores that end.
The skip, or team captain, is proud of how far his team has come.
100%. I'm getting a little emotional, actually. It's kind of crazy. Yeah. I am, actually. Yeah. I'm very proud. Yeah.
You take it, Josh. Yep, go ahead.
You know, nationals, Olympics, all that stuff, that was a big goal of mine. And having these guys part of that is wonderful. So, yeah, it's been a good year.
For next, I'm Victoria Sanchez.
And you thought it was just a Minnesota thing. If Team Sobering wins the national championships, they go to Worlds. After that, they have a chance to qualify for the Winter Olympic trials. The new candidate to be our next governor sits down to talk about his plan to offer all of us 2 years of college debt-free. But at what cost? And an exhibit coming to Denver and not leaving anytime soon. Mike Johnston's been a teacher, principal, a state senator. Mike Johnston would like to be our next governor, but first he'll need to get through a Democratic primary with expected opponents that will be better known and better funded. Problems for a different day. On this day, Johnston kicked off his campaign promising debt-free college for every Coloradan. He sat down with Next to explain.
Some variation of why do you want to be governor?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're at a time in Colorado where there are big problems to be solved, and to solve those is going to require someone with big and bold ideas and with a track record of being able to bridge divides to get results and to build opportunity for folks. I think I have that track record both as a school principal, as a small business owner, and certainly in my work in the legislature. And so I feel like this is a time where we'll need big vision and the ability to cross divides to solve problems, and I think I can do that.
What is it that Coloradans need to hear but they don't want to hear?
I think the things that we need to hear is that the rapid changes of automation and globalization are going to affect all of our industries, maybe even yours and mine, Kyle. But I think we've seen a lot of the manufacturers and employers and coal mines and others who have seen big disruption to their economies. And yes, that's coming for truck drivers and others, but I think it's also coming to all of our professions, which means there is going to be rapid change that's going to not slow down but accelerate, and we have to be prepared to build a workforce development plan and an economic plan that gets us ahead of this and not leaves us dragging behind an economy we can't keep up with.
Campaign kickoff speeches are typically not where you lay out policy in depth, but I did hear one prescription, which was the idea of 2 years of debt-free college or job training for every Coloradan. I didn't hear you say how we were going to pay for it.
So the reason why this is important is obviously the nature of this changing economy is people aren't going to be able to get a degree when they're 18 anymore and be prepared for the next 50 years of the economy. They're going to have to, at 25 and 35 and 45, develop new skills for new professions. Well, the key about this proposal is we're talking about it being debt-free, which means folks that can pay will pay, but those that need to acquire debt will be able to finance that by providing meaningful service to the state. And so the idea here is that these people would be engaged in almost like a civilian service corps, which would enable them to provide ongoing service to the state that saves the state dollars and prevents long-term state costs in the way that you think about almost like a National Guard does.
Roughly speaking, where would you draw the line in terms of who can pay? Sliding scale?
Yeah, I think it'd be a sliding scale for us to determine who has the capacity and who would have to take on debt to do it.
Gotcha. And with that, we're off in the race for governor. You can see my full unedited discussion with Mike Johnston on the next YouTube page. I asked him whether Colorado would be better off without the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights, as well as what his fellow Democrat, Governor John Hickenlooper, has left undone. Our YouTube page, by the way, is also where you can catch up on full episodes of Next. The world's greatest collection of Russian gem sculptures isn't in Russia. It's in Denver. Take that, Putin. Photojournalist Mike Grady turned his lens toward the Denver Museum of Nature and Science.
It's very hard for American or non-Russian eyes to understand what is in these. We're in the Gem Carvings of Russian Folklife exhibition, and it's a collection of 20 sculptures by the late artist Vasily Konovalenko. I'm Steve Nash, and I'm a curator of archaeology here at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. This is one of the finest collections, if not the finest collection, anywhere in the world. This piece is called Wanderer. This sculpture is called Prisoners. This sculpture is called Gold Prospectors. The man's pipe is made out of a little bit of dinosaur bone. So the 5 o'clock shadow on that young man that's sort of smiling, his beard, his stubbly beard, none of that is painted on. There's 10 or 15 different gemstones used here. None of those decorations were painted on. This is all Konovalenko seeing into the stone, finding the stone with the right kinds of attributes, the right lines, the right patterns, the right textures, and that's what makes these sculptures so incredibly unique. Well, we've got 2 conservators and a translator here from the Kremlin Museum in Moscow.
The sculptures are just amazing, and they are very high quality sculptures, but due to age, the glue has cracked.
At the most basic level, they're cleaning these sculptures. They've been on display for 33 years and have never been finely cleaned. And they're making sure that the glue is okay and that they're structurally sound. So it's really important to do this work, but it's also really important, we believe, to do it with some of the world's experts on this kind of art form. Culture is shared by all, and museums need to keep on sharing our knowledge, our experience, our expertise, and our collections in order for the world to remain a truly interesting place from a cultural and a scientific perspective.
It's a permanent collection. Still no decision tonight from Jeffco commissioners on whether to allow car dealerships and other development right next to Dinosaur Ridge. Moments ago, commissioners told the assembled crowd this is a toughie. So perhaps Tuffy will be the mascot of the car dealerships, one of those big blow-up waving dinosaur things selling used cars. Who knows? We'll let you know if they make a decision in the next couple of minutes here. Still no decision out of Jeffco on car dealerships near Dinosaur Ridge. Earlier in this program, I said that maybe the dead dinosaurs would be flattered that they would be overshadowed by dealerships selling vehicles that run on their fossilized remains. And Herb Black rightfully points out that just a tiny, tiny fraction of our oil actually comes from dead dinosaurs. It has to do with whether it's Mesozoic era or pre-Mesozoic era. And Herb, now you see why I didn't include any of your facts in my joke. We'll see you next time.